Good morning, boys and girls and parents. I hope that you have had a great week. I know there's been a lot of rain out there, so some of us have not been able to get outside as much as we would like, but I hope that you're still finding fun things to do as a family. I also hope that you are having time to continue to read and work on your packets and do some Dreambox lessons or Lexia. I have been really impressed with some kids getting a lot of Dreambox lessons and spending time reading and working together as a family. Thank you so much for the efforts that you've taken to do those things with your kids. And thank you, kids, for working hard at home as well. Several of you have joined us again this week on our class meeting. This next week, we will have one final class meeting and we will have one final round of videos because there will be one more week of the packet after this one for our last week of school next week. I know it is weird having not a traditional end to this school year. Next week, I am looking forward to seeing some of you on Thursday when you are able to come pick up supplies from the school between 1 and 3. And we will change the time of our class meeting so that it doesn't interfere with that. And I will let you know what time that will be next week. In our class meeting, we will be sharing some pictures and some videos with memories from the school year to help kids look back and reflect on the year. And I am also going to be sending you a link so that your child can make a video of themselves to share about their favorite memories from 4th grade. This has been a really special year for me, and I hope that it has been a good year for your children, even though it was interrupted at the end. All right, let's get started on the packet. We're going to look first at our first story, which is called Save Timber Woods. All right, this story is a reader's theater. And a reader's theater is a story that is in the form of a play. So it has characters, settings, sometimes it has stage directions. We see that here. Our characters in this story are the narrator, Lucas, Laura, Gina, and Hector. You might want to read this story with your family. You could have different family members read the different parts. You could even do different voices for different characters and have some fun with it. So that's one thing that you might do as you read through this. As we read, we're also going to collect and cite text evidence. We're going to underline the stage directions that show what Gina does and feels. So when we've looked at plays before, we've talked about how stage direction tells the characters what they're doing. So how they move, what they're doing with their bodies, and also how they feel. And then we're going to circle the reasons why Gina behaves that way. So looking for reasons why she behaves a certain way and also the stage directions. Okay, let's look at the next page. Scene 1. So it starts with the scene number and then it's going to tell us the setting, which is where this part of the story takes place. It says, the kitchen in Gina's home on the edge of the woods. Narrator. Laura, Gina, Hector, and Lucas are researching a current event for school. Gina is searching on a laptop. The others are looking through newspapers. Okay, so we already found some information there that tells us what the characters are doing. So we see that Gina is searching on a laptop, and the other characters are looking through newspapers. Lucas. What if we do our report on gas prices? Laura. Boring. Suddenly, Gina sees a deer outside in the yard. She jumps up from her chair and dashes to the kitchen door, shouting. Okay, so here we have some more stage direction. You can see that it's in italics, which means that it's kind of slanted to the side. So I'm going to underline what she does. She jumps up from her chair and dashes to the kitchen door, shouting. So she's running and shouting. And why does she do that? Well, the story tells us that right here. She sees a deer outside in the yard. And because she sees that deer, that's what causes her to jump up and run and shout. Gina. Get out of there! Scram! Grabbing a broom, Gina charges out the door, waving the broom and yelling at the deer as the deer runs away. Okay, so here is some more stage direction that I'm going to underline. Some more things that she's doing. Why did you yell at that deer, Gina? It was so cute. Laura, and that was Laura. Gina. Outraged. Cute! Maybe if you only see them once in a while, but they've started to show up in our yard every day. They are eating the tree we planted when my little sister was born. Okay, so this stage direction right here where it says outraged tells us how Gina is feeling. So Gina is very angry or upset about these deers in the yard. And now we find out why. So it's because they're eating their plants, and specifically they're eating the tree that they planted when her sister was born. So that's probably a special tree to the family, and they're not happy that the deer are eating it. Narrator. Gina points at a small tree on the lawn. Its branches are nearly bare. Gina, calming down. Those deer and our neighborhood don't go together. Going to underline this last bit of stage direction that tells us how she feels. Now she's calming down. She's not so freaked out. Reread lines 1 to 19. Based on Gina's actions, feelings, and statements, what might you conclude about her? Cite evidence from the text to support your answer. Okay, so looking specifically at that stage direction and the things that we underlined and circled, what can we tell about Gina? So you might say a word to describe her. What kind of person is Gina, and how do you know that? You should use evidence from the text to help you come up with your answer. Okay, let's turn the page. Now we're going to read and underline dialogue that shows what characters value. So dialogue is when the characters are talking to each other. So we're going to underline dialogue that shows what the characters value or care about. And then we're going to circle Gina's response to Hector's explanation for why deer are showing up in people's backyards. Okay, so we're going to look for how Gina responds to that. Hector. We have deer at my house too. My dad says it's because the deer have no place to go. People are building homes where the deer used to live. Now they have to find food somewhere else. Gina, in an annoyed voice. Well, not in my backyard. Lucas. The poor deer lost their homes, Gina. Gina. Well, my poor family is losing our favorite tree. Okay, I think that some of this dialogue is showing us what these characters care about. So we see, what does Gina care most about? Well, Gina really cares about her family's backyard in this tree. And then what does Hector care about? He cares about the deer, and he feels sorry for them because they're losing their homes when people are building houses on the land where the deer used to live. So I'm going to underline some of those things here. So when Gina says, well, not in my backyard, and well, my poor family is losing our favorite tree, that shows what's important to Gina. And when Hector says, people are building homes where the deer used to live, and now they have to find food somewhere else, that shows that Hector is caring about the deer. All right, let's keep reading. Hector, holding up the newspaper he's been looking through excitedly. Hey, listen to this. Here's an article that says the deer problem is going to get worse. Land developers plan to cut down timber woods by the school. Our town government has been renting the woods from a private owner. Now the owner plans to sell it to a developer who plans to build 100 townhouses. Laura, timber woods? That's where we do field work for science class. That's where we camp and have picnics. Lucas, what about the animals who live there? More animals will get kicked out of their homes. Gina, more yards will be ruined by deer. Hector, well, at least we found a current event to report on. Laura, I wish we could stop them from cutting down timber woods. Hector, maybe it's not too late. The paper says that people can talk about the development plan at next week's town council meeting. Let's ask our parents if we can go right now. Let's find more information to put in our current events report. So before we keep reading, we still need to circle Gina's response to Hector's explanation. So Hector explains that the reason the deer are coming to people's backyards is because they don't have homes. And we already underlined Gina's response. She says, well, not in my backyard. So she responds by becoming annoyed. She's not feeling very sorry for the deer at first, but then that kind of changes as we read down the page. There's also some vocab words over here that you should write the definition to: developers and council. And now let's go ahead and finish reading this section here. Gina, let's get all the facts. That way, we'll have a good report for class and good ideas for the council meeting. Lucas, maybe our friends will come to the meeting. Narrator, the group presents its current events report and the whole class gets excited. The class decides to ask the town's leader to buy timber woods and preserve the land for both animals and people. Okay, before we continue reading, I'm going to get my piece of paper here and I'm going to divide it in half. You can do the same thing on your paper. On the top, I'm going to write problem, and on the bottom, I'm going to write solution. So we have a problem here in this story. What is the main problem? Well, developers are wanting to tear down the woods to make townhomes, to make new homes for people moving into the neighborhood. And why is that a problem? Well, that's getting rid of the habitat for deer and for other animals. And also, the kids said that they use those woods for their science class to do research probably on the animals and the habitat there. So if the woods are torn down, they can no longer use them for those things as well. It's also forcing the deer to move from their home in the woods into people's backyards because they no longer have woods to live in. So this is what we're going to write for the problem. The timber woods are being destroyed to build new townhomes. This is a problem because... And then I would like you to finish that sentence. Why is that a problem? I just gave several examples, and you can look back in the story as well for some reasons why that would be a problem. Okay, now we're going to keep reading and see if the kids are able to come up with a solution to this problem. Let's go to scene 2. For scene 2, it tells us the setting is the next day in the dining room of Gina's home. Narrator, the 4 friends are making signs for the meeting. Gina and Lucas are working on a large sign. Laura, what is your sign going to say? Gina and Lucas, save timber woods. Lucas, save the animals from us. Gina, and save our yards from the animals. Hector, it's about the woods too. Remember that book we read about the water cycle? It said that natural areas such as woods help absorb water and prevent flooding when heavy rains fall or snow melts. But how can I put that on a sign? Laura, how about woods and water, important partners? Ask me why. Hector, good idea. Then I can talk about it when I give our statement. Reread lines 20 to 69. Which characters care more about the woods and animals than about their backyards? Cite text evidence to support your answer. So there's several characters here that have shown that they're more concerned about the animals and the habitat than they are about their backyard. So here you're going to write the names of some of those characters. Okay, on this next page, we're going to circle the key points Lucas realizes and how Hector thinks they should respond to it. So what Lucas realizes and how Hector thinks they should respond. And underline the clues that show how Hector speaks well at the town council meeting. Okay, here we go. Gina, it's cool that the town council said you could present a statement for us, Hector. But how will the town ever get enough money to buy the woods? I also heard my mom talking about how much money the city will get from new taxpayers who move into the new houses. Lucas. But the problems caused by cutting the woods will cost money. We have to help them see that. Hector, pointing at Lucas. You're right. Instead of ignoring the issues of money, we should show that we understand it. Let's do some more research so we know the facts. And how about this for a sign? Saving timber woods saves dollars and makes sense. Laura, at least the town will know how we feel. So they're trying to prove how cutting down the woods is also going to cost a lot of money for the town, because they know that the town leaders are probably going to be concerned about that. So we found out here what Lucas realizes, so we're going to circle that. Let's look at what Lucas says. But the problem caused by cutting the woods will cost money. We have to help them see that. So that's what he realizes, is how cutting down the woods will cost the town money. And then Hector responds by saying, let's do some more research on the facts. And he gives a new idea for what they can write on the sign to point out the truth about how it will cost money. Okay. Again, there's another vocab word over here, ignoring. And we're about to get to this next one, warehouses. Here is scene 3. The setting is a meeting room with rows of folding chairs inside the town hall. Hector, I'm nervous. Laura, you're going to be great, Hector. Look, I think that's the developer. Hector, maybe he could tear down those old Smithfield warehouses and build homes there. Nobody has used those buildings for a long time. Lucas, good idea, turning around. I think the meeting's about to start. Narrator, the town council members soon introduce the main topic, the sale of timber woods. People take turns talking about the plan to build townhouses. Finally, it's Hector's turn to speak. The audience listens closely as he explains why the woods are so important and what the students want the council to do. Hector, in a firm voice. So, we asked the adults in town to join us in finding a way to turn timber woods into protected parkland. He sits down as many people applaud. Narrator. After more debate, the council decides to delay the sale of timber woods for 3 months. During that time, the town will try to raise enough money to buy the woods. After the meeting, the students get together. Gina, in an excited voice. They listened to us after all. Laura, now we have to help find ways to raise money. Lucas, how about a bake sale? Hector, that's a good idea, but we'll need to do more than that. Laura, let's meet tomorrow. Gina, let's involve the whole class. Everyone will benefit if we can save timber woods, so we should all work together. Okay, before we go on to this question, we need to look for the examples of how Hector spoke in a good way. So how do we know that Hector presented a strong argument? Well, it tells us that he spoke in a firm voice. Normally when we speak in a firm voice, that's part of being assertive, part of showing that we know what we're talking about. And when he was done, many people applauded. So that also shows us that he probably did a pretty good job. It also tells us that the audience listened closely to him. So that also shows that he probably did a good job of speaking if they were listening closely. Okay, and here's our short response question. Analyze Hector's character. What is he like? Cite evidence from the text to support your analysis. So now we're going to explain about Hector. So giving a character trait to describe Hector's character and why you would describe him that way using text evidence. We are at the end of our story, so now let's come up with a solution. So we had our problem. What was their solution? Well, they're going to try to raise money, right, to save the woods so that they don't have to sell it. And so the town can buy the woods themselves and they can protect them. So they're going to raise money to save the woods. And I would also like you to write how they're going to do that. So What did they give at the end as an example of how they could raise money to save the woods? And you could even add some of your own ideas if you can think of some other ways that they might be able to raise money to save the woods. All right, boys and girls, thank you for listening and reading through this story with me and writing in the answers. Next, we're going to look at the second story in the packet.